What is up, everyone? And here we go with the real world review of the 16 to 25 and 24 to 50 versus the 16 to 35 and 24 to 70. Let's go. Really excited about this one. We're doing something new. I'm trying something different, and we are taking the lenses into the real world and doing a bunch of testing. So I have 3 different locations that we went. I went to the Utah State Capitol because they got a big old set of stairs. This is an ode to Jared Polin, or Fronos Photo, and his Philly Art Museum stairs test to look at the straight line on the wider end of the 16 to 25 and how does that compare to the 16 on the G Master, and then looking at some different situations where I would use the 24 to 50 and the 24 to 70. We are going to go downtown in Salt Lake and we're going to take some photos of graffiti and murals, and then we're also going to take them to the ski hill. I did not take the version 1s out to the ski hill. I just took the new smaller mini zooms out because I wanted to test the autofocus abilities on that. So let's get into it. Like I said, going to the Capitol building was less about making a pretty image and more about testing the lens to see how accurately it represents a straight line at the wider end of the zoom range. So the 16 to 18 millimeter range, really on the 16 to 25. That way I know exactly how it will perform in other situations where I am dealing with architecture or buildings or things that have to represent straight lines. When we went downtown, I was really looking for some vibrant murals, something that Salt Lake City has plenty of. I wanted to test the color rendition of these lenses through to the sensor, along with get an idea of what it's like walking around with these camera lenses. Since they are half the size and weight of the V1G Masters, I want to know what the entire experience is like using these lenses over something else. Can you just double check that this is recording? Is it blinking red?
Yep.
Sweet. The last thing I really needed to test was the autofocusing abilities of these lenses versus my V1G Masters. I've never had an issue filming action sports or photographing action sports where it's lost focus for any other reason than I screwed up. And so, of course, because I live in Utah and I occasionally do things with action sports, I needed to see how well the autofocus system would perform. And so that's why my partner and I went up to Brighton, where we normally ski and snowboard, and she was my talent for some photos. And we were able to capture some photos of her coming straight at me and then passing by me, so that way I could test how well the focus would keep up as she came closer and then moved further on. All right, so let's jump into reviewing some of the photos I took. And we're going to start with the photos I took up at the Capitol. The big one is, I am pulling up right here, we have the photos from the stairs. And let's jump in. I got to make sure I find the correct ones. All right. So right here we have the 16 to 25 at 16, and one of the things I really wanted to look at was how straight do these stairs look. And let's go into develop and actually pull up the crop, and you can really tell that, like, from here, let's follow the stair, like, you definitely have some curving, which isn't surprising when it comes to using a 16 millimeter lens. But the question becomes, let's jump back over and we're going to actually go to the 16 to 35 G Master, and we're going to look at how that did. Kind of wanted to do a side-by-side on these two lenses, and as you can see, and I'm honestly not that surprised, the G Master definitely is closer to perfectly straight lines. It's definitely noticeable. Let's out of there. And yeah, so you can definitely tell, especially on these edges, that there's a lot more of a chromatic or a curving. So yeah, let's see what happens when we put in a lens profile. Sony. Oh, there is none. Let's see. Let's try the. There we go. Let's see. Does this one have it? There we go. So this one clearly already was pretty close, but yeah, this one definitely helped out some, but it's still definitely more noticeable. That was kind of the big thing I was trying to test up at the Capitol. And then let's look at some of these portraits so this is now with the 24-50 lens, looking at what it was doing when we were looking at the graffiti, kind of just wanting to see what kind of detail and all of that. And again, similar, we were at 24. I wanted to see how much curving we were going to have. But I also generally look at things as like, what is my delicate balance? I have a tendency to look at equipment as like, what gets me most of the way there. A lot of the projects I work with, we are not looking at stairs or specific lines in concrete that have to be perfectly straight. A lot of my work, there is some of that flexibility, and also I have the ability to move back and get more space. Then we have some portraits that I was able to take of my buddy Benny, where we were able to get, this is at 50, which I honestly think these look gorgeous. I am pretty stunned. I mean, this was at 42, so slightly pulled back, but like the color rendition, the focus, it's tack sharp. I'm sorry, Benny, that your face is getting this up close on YouTube, but it is what it is. I mean, like, the amount of detail is crazy. And then the fall off is just quite nice. And this was shot at 2.8 just to see what that fall off was like. And you can kind of tell that like his eye's sharp and his ears slightly out of focus. So maybe if I wanted to have the whole head in focus, I could have gone to f4, but I wanted to really test the limits of the lens, which is why I went to f2.8. And this is all just a quick preset. I have not done anything crazy. I have not done any major post. Let's go look at a little bit more of this graffiti, or this wall art, mural art, I should say. Similarly, like this is quite nice and sharp. And this is where I was focusing on this image. And the fall off is quite nice. I have nothing bad I can really say about it. And then now we're going to jump forward to the skiing segment. This is strictly like, I was not looking for any specific location. I was not looking for any specific frame. What I was testing was, what does the focus look like? How does my autofocus work? Is my autofocus able to track a fast moving subject coming straight at me and then moving away from me? What does it look like? That am I going to have an issue with something coming towards me? And I shot stuff both on the 24-50 and the 16-25. I'll make note of it as we're talking. So this first one is on the 16-25, and like, as you can see, subject is sharp. Moving closer, subject is still quite sharp. And again, like, there we go. Like, still tack sharp. And then moving away, still tack sharp. Yeah. The next set, I made a mistake. I was using zone focus when I should have been using spot focus metering. So I did lose focus a little bit, but still quite good. So like coming in perfectly sharp, still perfectly sharp. And then we lost a little bit, but it's still a usable image, even though you can kind of tell if you're looking closely, that the snow in front of her is what is in focus and she's not. But in all honesty, I could put this on Instagram and people would not notice the difference. They would just still think it's a cool image. And then this is where the spot metering really, or the zone metering blew up on me and went to the snowflakes. But after this sequence, I switched to spot and had much better success. Similarly here, as you can see, coming in, once it loads, focused, boom, focused, like really nice sharpness on the details of the jacket. And we are, again, not having an issue. And yes, I was shooting at f5.6, but that was honestly because there was just so much sun coming out right then that it was needed for that. This was me just completely losing it on framing. It happens. And then this is one that I find interesting because, like, yes, like autofocus system worked perfectly, but I also accidentally learned something interesting about these lenses, and that is this weird kind of harsh. You can really see the blades of the aperture on this sun flare. And it's honestly not the most beautiful sun flare, but again, if you know what a lens or any piece of equipment is going to do, you can work around that. I also did not have lens hoods on, which might have reduced that a little bit, but I was pretty much pointing the camera straight into the sun, so kind of unavoidable. So that's something to note, that it's not necessarily the most beautiful lens flares, but we were able to get some interesting images. This is hilarious. I asked her to go closer to me and it was taken very seriously. But again, when you're talking about like looking at sharpness, we are still sharp. And this is like, yeah, it's not the most great, like glamorous image, but it tells me like this lens is performing because as she passes me, still in focus. There we go. And then one last sequence. Similarly, boom, in focus, nice tack sharp. Again, closer, still nice and sharp. Like, look at that, yep, money. So, yeah, and like this is kind of a cool image because you do have a little bit of a landscapey vibe, which is something I wanted to go try and shoot a landscape, but I just didn't have time because life happens. So yeah, like this is a pretty quick review. And then one other thing, we're gonna go back to the Capitol that I really wanted to look at was vignetting. So I was using the Breakthrough Photography magnetic ND filters, their version 1 that they came out with in 2019. And it's got kind of a chunky lip, but I like these because I'm able to hone in specific stops a little easier than the VNDs. The only things I have are those magnetic filters or variable ND filters. And one of the things that I do not like about this filter system is at 16mm, as you can see up here, we have a pretty strong vignette where you can see the edge of frame. And this pops up on the 16-35 f2.8 G Master. This is not something specific because of the fact that we were seeing a little more on the 67mm. I was actually hoping that the narrower lens barrel was going to get me away from that, but we do still have that vignetting. So that is something to think about, but honestly, usually I am doing post in a way where I crop to 16:9, and if we do a crop to 16:9, that gets rid of most of it, so it's pretty usable. Not something that's like a deal breaker to me because I look at both the equipment at what it's capable of as far as creating an image and also what it allows me to get into the places and be able to do the job, because that's half of the battle. Let's wrap this up in a second. Editor Simon here, and I realized I forgot to say something very important earlier in the video. On top of all of the photos being taken with the 16-25 and 24-50, all of the video where you do not see the two lenses in frame was also captured with the 16-25 and 24-50. So all of the stuff when we were at the Capitol, downtown, and even all of these talking head bits that I have added with me at the computer and this right here were captured with the same lenses that I'm reviewing. Let's finish it up. We've got the 16-25 and the 24-50 G lenses, and we've got the 16-35 and the 24-70 G master lenses. There are certain things about these lenses, the extra 20 millimeters of reach, a little bit better as far as on the wider end, keeping straighter lines, certain things like that. Probably also faster focusing, but double the weight, probably 1 2/3 the size of these two lenses. So that is a major factor. Me personally, the way I view things is, how do I make my life as simple as possible to do the job I need to do where I need to do it? A lot of times weight and size are a matter. Things I need to think about when it comes to my equipment. These lenses have been great, but I can sell these lenses for the same price as what it would take for me to buy these brand new. And this saves a ton of weight in my pack, makes it so I can have smaller pack outs. Yes, it's not quite as good of a lens in certain tech specs, and in all honesty, if I had a job where I needed to capture extremely high resolution for something like a billboard, I would probably still rent a G Master lens, but I can rent it for a day, write that cost off to my client, and then I can still get what I need to do. But then on the day-to-day, and for a lot of things, I'm saving a ton of weight and size. Especially on the FX3, same on the FX6. This gives me a lot of potential to do some things that would not necessarily be as comfortable to do in other situations. So yeah, I'm probably gonna switch to these lenses. Not 100%, but very likely. I have been incredibly impressed. Yes, there are ways I could nitpick it, but the size is insanely different, and like, it just opens up so many possibilities. So yeah, if you guys have questions about these lenses, if you guys have comments about the new way I'm doing gear testing, leave a comment down below. If you guys have any other questions, hit me up on Instagram at Simon Eisenbach. Have a great week. See you guys next time.